Hello and welcome to TribNet 2025. My name is Tami Teisler, and I am going to be going through the Choose Your Own Adventure session that we have for this year's TribNet. The unique quality of this session is that our attendees that are traveling to Pittsburgh this year have submitted their own topics that they would like me to kind of teach on and or review. So this is kind of built from those that are attending in person. The topics that we're going to touch on today and that were submitted by other users, we're going to talk about some of our shipping audit reports. We're also going to talk about stock out reports that are available within Tribute. We're going to review some of the new qualities in our receivables inquiries, some of the things that you can do for searching, as well as still accessing our old receivables area. We're going to talk about importing and walk through actually importing journal entries. We're also going to touch on Quest inquiries, which maybe not a lot of you are aware are available. We're going to hit on some external fabrication steps, as well as the slash paste options that we have in Tribute. And we're also going to touch on the IQS inquiry screen and some RP searching tools that we have. So let's go ahead and get started. The shipping audit reports, the first one that I want to talk about is our pick list, PICKLST. This list is your pick F records, which are your packing slip, your pick ticket records, and this report will list them out by date. You can list the pick tickets, you can select by profit center, you can also do the date, the input date that you need to use, and the printer selection. So what this pick list is really intended to do is to help you. You're going to see the order numbers. They're going to print in the order they were originally printed, and you can use it can be used when your printer malfunctions. So that's kind of what this is meant for. The pick list, let's say your printer is interrupted, or there's a malfunction, or it stops printing. This pick list is to give you a listing of all of the picking tickets that went to a specific packing list printer and list them out for you to be able to view them and make sure you aren't missing any or didn't if you need to reprint any of those pick lists. So it is a unique way of listing out all of the packing list pick lists for that day. The pick list does hold data for the last 7 days only, so it's not something, this isn't a report that you're looking to run 3 months down the road. It is, when in fact it's really just in those cases where you've had some trouble with the printer, and you're unsure of if there are any missing pick tickets. This will allow you to reprint and get a listing of the day so you can make sure there are no gaps in what you truly had that should have been printed. This is an example of this. So again, it's coming from the PICF file. You can list out the transactions. Again, you can select by profit center, and you're also selecting the spooler printer, quote unquote, that it shipped to. So even if they went to a spooler, you can still list them out, and you'll see that it's time stamped. So you can see that detail, and it notes which pick tickets have actually OS'd. So another way that this could be beneficial is if you wanted to list out all of the packing slips from yesterday and see which of them still are in an unshipped process. So that can be helpful as well. The next audit report that we're going to talk about is the pick check. This is also, a checking report for your pick tickets. It's used to locate, now in this case, lost, misplaced, or misdirected packing slips. And the intention of this is not a printer malfunction, but what is meant for this report, it's going to indicate any packing slips that have not been OS'd or shipped, quote unquote, shipped from the OS process. And it's actually for all time. So if you're running this report, it is not just looking at yesterday's listing of things that have printed. It's looking to see, hey, of all the packing slips that we've ever printed, what has not been shipped? What is sitting out there either, because if you truly don't ship something, you should be zero shipping that packing slip so that the order could then be corrected and then either reshipped or canceled. So what this pick check does is it's going to allow you to see those things that are in an unshipped status where the packing slips have come out. You're going to select to print in sales order number order or date printed order, and that's entirely up to you. Run it, if you've never used this before, run it a couple times and see what your preference is. Printed in date printed order will also ask if you want to print in reverse order or if you want if you in reverse order would be newest would print first. If it's not the reversed order, obviously your oldest will print first. Also, if the print date is blank, which indicates there was a problem, should it print first on your list or last? And again, this is going to shoot out for you then a listing of any of those lost, misplaced, or misdirected packing slips. The key thing about this is we recommend running it once a week, at least, but running it once a week, the first pass an order has been printed, it will just get flagged. So if I print something on Wednesday and I'm running this report on Friday it will get flagged. It doesn't get printed that first time. The second pass it prints, and that's why basically if I had something go out on Wednesday, I printed the report on Friday. It's still, pretty new in that it hasn't shipped yet. But what would happen then the following Friday is it's going to show up on my report if I'm running it weekly. So it's an indication that, hey, you printed something last Wednesday. Those are really your key ones, depending on how quickly you're shipping things out from those packing slips. But it would then ping to you and say, hey, last Wednesday, this was printed. Now it's showing up on your report because it has not been OS'd yet. So you can determine what is best if it needs to be more than just once a week that it needs to be run. But first time, if you've never run it before, you might not even have anything on the listing because nothing has been flagged yet. But then the second time you run it, anything that has been flagged but still has not been OS'd yet will show up for you to review and kind of find those missing packing slips. Or, zero ship them so that those orders can be maintained and completed. This next report is the OU7 report, and this is for some of you utilizing bill of materials and creating either direct bills or internal fabs or external fabs. This is a separate print of the bill of material report. So it does get generated automatically with your OPL packing slip, and there's two parts to this report. The first part is going to list each parent and subparents on its own page, along with any components and bill of material order. So you'll see those all together with their quantities and any additional information that's needed for that bill of material. The second part of the report then is a list of a summary of components in item order with the bins, quantities, and other information. So if you've got multiple bill of materials that are pulling some of the same components, that second part becomes a listing to help you pull those components to bring out into those projects, those builds. There is an ZIFM option. So this ZIFM option has to be activated for you to get this OU7 to print. It is generated then again, like I mentioned, with your packing slips. When you turn this on, if it's not already turned on, you can select what bill of materials will print. So you can either have just your direct bill of materials, you can have all fab bill of materials, only, or you can have both direct and fab bill of materials. So you're selecting when you turn it on if you want D, F, or B, and both would then pull both fab and direct bill of materials. There is a separate printer, so you can set it up in ZF13, that OU7, because it comes out automatically, no one is running OU7. Once it's turned on, it just happens. You can tell it for each profit center. So it's set up by each profit center. The default printer in field 10 in ZF13, you'll put in your profit center in the program OU7, and then the default spooler goes into field 10. There are additional ZIFMs that go with OU7. So since we only have so much time, I will tell you, if you go into ZIFM for those global settings and you search for OU7, there's one where maybe you only want to print the component summary only. You don't want that first part of the report to print. If it's useless and you just want that summary. You also have one for whether or not you want the component summary to sort by bin location or by item number. So you have the ability to control that. I know that for some of our customers, the packing slip is in one order and they want this OU7 to be in the other order. You can also move your BOM listing further down the page, and that's for the purpose of how it will be printing at the warehouse. You can print the subassembly comments that are coming from your OPS structures or your OH TCM comment area. You can print short descriptions from the order lines, and you can also have your internal fabs use a different printer if necessary. So then the last thing on here, just noting that OTCM, there is a template. So OTCM are your overall company comments, and there is a specific template for these OU7 reports. So if you want something to print on all of your OU7 reports that is defaulted, you can use the OU7 : message. I will give a little note that I do have a comment session this year, and we do talk about those OTCM templates if you have any questions about that. This is an example then of that OU7, the separate print. Again, you've got the first part and the second part. So the first part is listing for you, again, each bill of material parent and the components listed with it. You're seeing how much quantity per assembly and the order quantity and what's been released, and there's a place for you to grab the material. And then the second part is that summary of components. So again, your whole list of details and everything is combined so that you have the quantities by item number, or you can sort it by bin, that you are then pulling as a whole how much quantity for all of the projects. Okay, the next report that we're going to talk about is a stockout report. So we're going from our warehouse reports into the stockout reports here. This stockout expedite listing, this IBEXL, you can run this report by profit center and the order date selection. So you can see group, or you can do a range, or you can do all. What this report is it's going to list the items that are required for sales orders sooner than your vendor forecasted lead time. So this is a quick and simple report listed out for you that's going to show you, based on those sales order required dates, any items that you have that the forecasted lead time, and you can even see it's listing for you the required date of the line as well as the forecasted lead time plus the release days, what that is equal to. So I put the example equation down here, your sales order required date, if it is less than today's date plus the forecasted lead time from IDM of your part. So how long, that's why it's critical to have good forecasted lead times and let the system be calculating that as you're receiving material. So it's today plus the forecasted lead time plus whatever your release days are set up as. If again, your sales orders required date is less than that, it will print so that it's showing you, hey, your required date, your forecasted lead time, you're not going to, it's basically sooner than when we can pull it in naturally. So this again is the IBEXL report. This next stockout report, the ISTOR, this report you're going to select by profit center. Again, with most of these, you can do all, you can do a group, you can do a range. You can also just do a single, the product code as well. So you can enter in your product code and then the date range. And what this date range is to count how many occurrences that your stock was out of stock. So how many times did it get out of stock? It also asks you if you want to include Z-class items. So those would be the items that you aren't naturally buying for in the IB process. And you can also output it to a CSV, not CVS. You're not going to the drugstore, to a CSV. And from there, if you prefer, you can just drop it into Excel. That's the benefit of those CSV reports. The stock out is calculated as how many times each item reached 0 or below within the specified date range that you entered. So I gave myself a year that I wanted to look at. You could look at 6 months, you could look at 1 month, whatever the case may be. You're putting in the date range that you want it to run for. The the ISTOR then example of what it's showing you, the IKQ basically scanned to calculate the stockouts and the number of days. So your IKQ is the movement of your inventory, and based on that date range that we gave it, the items that had stockouts, it's going to tell us how many times we had a stockout and for how many days we had a stockout. So in my test database, I've got an item that's been in a stockout position for 19 years, that's 6,755 days. But obviously, in the case when you're reviewing this, you're defining what it is that you want to pull into the report, and then you're able to see or review that with your team. This last one, the ISCR stockout report, is the stock coordinator's report. It prints a list of your open sales orders with the back ordered items listed. You can select by sales order date range and profit center that you want to see, and you can include the inventory status, open customer orders, and open purchase orders for each line. The more information you're adding to the report, obviously the bigger it's going to be. So if you haven't used some of these reports before, try running them and see what works best and what detail is really necessary. Okay. This next section is the receivables inquiry. So there was a big change that we had where ROQ was switched from an indexed program to now we have the table where you can search. So there are benefits to both. And I know, being on the support side, we do see a lot of customers, some are tied to the old version and some like the new. So the new ROQ, we still have the old version. You can still get into ROQI, which, the ROQ is now the new standard. The ROQI is the old indexed version. But with this new version, you can scroll and sort. So we just want to kind of take a look at the scroll and sort ability. So I can scroll over, I can see all of the line details, and on any of those line details for any of the records, I can, in ROQ, now I can sort by any of the columns. And so now I can sort by amount. If I'm looking for something specifically open in my customer's record, I can click on that amount. I can sort down and find maybe that specific transaction that I was looking for based on the amount. From this location in ROQ, I can also drill down into the detail of that if I need to. I can find maybe I'm going to sort by due date instead of by the amount. And into any of those, I can also still click history. I can change the columns where the columns are. I can set them up what is best for me, the ones that I want to drag over to the left side so I can see them without scrolling. I can also still drill down into any of these transactions and see the full detail. I can do my ramp adjustment directly from here as well. So all of that is still available like I used to have in the ROQ, the old ROQ version. But now I've got the key feature is that I am able to do the scrolling and the selecting, and I can drill down into all of that detail. In this case, I can click on allowance and find something we posted allowance codes on, sort those all together, and review, drill down into that detail. All of this is then still accessible and still the same as we had when we were in the ROQI. Now is accessible, and still you can get into the question mark. You can still see the options in those inquiries as well. All of those are still available, and you can still do a listing. So you can list out the detail from ROQ just like you used to be able to do. The other key thing is that our HQ and our OQ are they're both the same in the ability that you can do these searches. Looking at then the ROQI, still having access to the old indexed way. So the old indexed way, I can view the reference numbers, and I can see which ones are tied to each other, and I still have the same views that I had previously, just accessed from a different area. And then also benefits for you utilizing both screens. The new RHQ has those same scroll options. It still has the drill downs, and then the old RHQ is now under RHQI. So you can access that still with the indexed. The next area that we're going to talk about is the importing. So there was a request to walk through importing into your journal entry area. So in GIP, the GIP, GIPL, GUP, as I call them, are the manual journal entry, how you can post manual journal entries. Within the GIP program or the GIP program, you can utilize the I or import option. So I will note that before you get to this area, you'll already have put in your journal source code, the description of the journal that you're going to do, the posting year you want it to post to, and the period. That gets entered on the header screen, and then I is where you're going to select once you're in the detail screen that you want to do an import. Listed at that time when you select the I, it's going to show you the import specs that are important when you are creating your file to be imported. So utilizing this information, all of those fields need to be in your import. So we'll look here. Again, we've got the specs there. Your Excel fields and sizes must match what's above. And so the details will be, my first column is 2 characters, and it is the organization. My next, my column B is the account number, and it needs to be 10 in width. C is actually, it says 11.2, so it's going to be a 13 character field, and you actually need 4 decimals. So I know it says what it says, but when you're doing the import, you'll need to have 4 decimals. You can put the negative on either side because it is a string when it's imported. It is critical that the account number has to be left justified, even if your accounts start with a number. So again, you've got your profit center, then we've got the account number, then we've got the amount that you are importing, and then the next field's the date. You can enter the date. You can either do month, month slash day, day slash year, year, or you can do century, year, month, day. That is an optional field, but you still have to have you still have to have the field there in your import shoot. So you want to make sure that you, again, the field needs to be there. You don't have to put anything in it. Same thing for the reference number. That has to be 10 characters long, and description is 17 characters long. You can put things into those fields or you can leave them blank. When you have your Excel spreadsheet created and the column widths correct, then you will save that as a .prn. So you can see in the example, what you're going to need for your file name is GIPXF and then 3-character suffix. So my initials are TNT. I have added that at the end, and I'm going to save it as a formatted text space delimited or a .prn. That file is then what you're going to take when you go into the Win SCP, or if you're using a different FTP type, you can. Ours are recommended, or what we usually set up on our users' systems. And if you don't happen to have this, we can help you set it up, is Win SCP. You're going to drag that GIPXF and your suffix.prn from wherever you have it located on your system, and you'll drag it over to user QBridge temp. You'll log into that area to save the file. Then you'll go into QDOS CNV. So those of you that are familiar with importing have probably done this for a whole lot of other things. If you aren't familiar with importing and you want us to walk you through it, when you sit down to do it, just contact support. But QDOS convert, the full Unix file name is going to be where you've put the file for Tribute to find it. So in this case, the /usr/qbridge/temp. It is, you do have to have, my file name was capital letters, so I have to put it in here as capital, and then the .prn was lowercase. The input record size will be blank, but then the Quickware file name is the file name that GIP is going to use. So it needs to be in the format GIPXF and then whatever your suffix is that you're going to tell it to find. And so I just keep what I saved my .prn and my Quickware file name the same for ease of the import. You're going to put it to the UTR directory. Your Quickware record size should be 63, and that will include everything or the length of which we are importing. And then you can set this to not erase or to erase the Unix file when you're done. After you've done the QDOS CNV, here you'll see it confirms how many records it converted. So in this case, I have 6 that were converted. I can use then that I import, and it will ask me what my suffix is. So I had ended my file. It started with the GIPXF as it needed to, and I ended the file with TNT. So that is what I am entering into the import file suffix. Once I do that, the system will bring up for me that it has done, it has checked to see if there were any errors, and it will let me know if there are errors. For any lines there is no error, it's going to go ahead and import them into this listing. So I can either add the errored lines manually, or I can go back and re-import if I want to. Once you have done the import, you can just type an L to list, and you'll be able to see the imported transactions that you've done. And then you're going to run GPL and then GUP as you normally would. Okay, that was it for importing. And again, these are our topics that were sent in to us that users wanted to talk about. So we're kind of hopping from place to place. This next area is our custom inquiry access programs, the Quest program and the program QSTCM. So these 2 programs, or this area, is not a lot of our customers are aware that these custom inquiries are accessible and that you're able to set up your own custom inquiries as well. This Quest, you can go into Quest and you can enter into the standard inquiries, or you can go into No, which would take you to show you the standard inquiries plus any that you have set up individually for your own company. Again, you can unlock those standard and custom inquiries using this program. What you're able to do is there are types of inquiries throughout the system that you can access that either are by customer, you have item inquiries that are available, you've got vendor inquiries that are out there and available, you've got miscellaneous inquiries, and you've got expense inquiries, so your expense purchase orders that are you can attach to. I have gone into the item inquiry. So I'm looking at the ones that are available on my system. I've got a couple inquiries that are based on bin lookups. I've got a description selection that it looks like. I've got an inventory comment inquiry. I've got an inquiry to help find intangible items. I've got an item lookup, an item PO lookup, and a product code lookup. These are all, again, there's some standard that are out there and already available for you. And there are also ones that you can set up and create on your own. When using these, so I selected to go into the lookup by attribute or the intangible lookup, and I can search the attribute flag from IMM. And you can see on the left, I typed in an I, and then the system inquiry just brought up for me all of the items in my system that have an I attribute. So again, it's a simple way to get an inquiry that you can do some lookups that throughout Tribute, maybe there isn't a inquiry already available. I would also say with this, you can access these from all over the place. And this is an IMM example, but the inquiries are accessible in QSTCM that allows you to create them. And then again, I'm in IMM, and if I did a question mark at the item number, you can see there is a U or a custom inquiry area that gets me into the QSTCM, which has all of these custom and standard inquiries that have been set up. Now, for this class, there isn't enough time for us to talk all about how you can set these up yourself. We do have a class that runs probably an hour to an hour and a half of some of that detail, but what the uniqueness again for you sitting through this session is to know that this is available, to know that you can set up these custom inquiries. You know, you can search by a customer's phone number, you can search by their city, you can search by, there's a lot of places where you can gather this information or do these searches if you're in the customer master, in the IMM record, in the IDM record, so you can see where this detail can be pulled from. Contact us if you want to go through any training or review some of the, if you have a specific inquiry that you would like to work on setting up, contact us and we can help with that. All right, now this next section is we're going to walk through an external fabrication that's going to ship to a customer. So this was a very specific example. So we're going to, in OQE, we're going to enter a quote under a customer number as normal. So this is a normal customer number for me. I'm going to, for this bill of material line, I'm going to enter the source as a vendor, and I'm going to have the vendor number that I'm going to pull in, and then the PO pound in that field, I'm going to have ORDER so that I get an automatic issue of a new purchase order. Any external fabrications are going to have this fabrication repair charge gets auto added to the bill of material. So that's because I have a bill of material and I sourced, again, if we go back to this, I sourced that parent line to an external vendor. And so here's where that automatic fabrication repair charge pops up, and I will it will update the expected cost for the PO processing. Can enter that in for how much that fabrication charge will be. Once the PO is created, it gets printed for the vendor's fabrication. So this is an example of that vendor, and the you can see the bill of material in QMQ. I can see the bill of material that's being fabricated, and then the fabrication repair line and the cost for that. In OS, the normal release and shipment of those components to the vendor for fabrication. So because the vendor is fabricating it, the internal parts can be shipped to that external vendor, and the packing slip is going to get created for that vendor so that the components can then ship to them. The in NTIE, when I am the AP process that will happen, when AP processes it through NTIE, it's the fabrication repair charge that will get entered. The parent line does not need to be billed. It's just that fabrication that we're telling it how much that vendor charged us to fabricate the bill of material. After AP invoiced, the process that happens for AP in OM, the parent line on the customer's sales order is going to auto ship an invoice to the customer. So you can see in here in OMQ, it released the parent item because the fabrication was available, and then it is going to go ahead and invoice because we have completed that process. And that's it for our external fabrications. We do have, along with most of these topics, there's only so much that we can fit into the slides as we're, setting this up, and obviously when we're sitting in the session, there'll be a lot more discussion that's happening with a lot of these topics. So we do have internal and external training, like a whole session that we can do on internal and external fabrications, and I know that might be something that you would want to drill down into further. Okay, so a couple more of the topics that we have here. This slash paste copy option in both OQE, so your quote entry, and QMPOM for your purchase order entry. This is a copy paste function where you can take something from Excel and you can just paste it into Tribute. So you don't have to do an import. All you have to do is use this slash paste feature. So in this example, I have already created my quote header, and at the line number, and on a normal line, I'm just typing slash paste in OQE. And again, I can also do this in QMPOM, and it's going to then pop up for me. I get a pop-up table that's listed here where I can paste in the items and the quantities. So from here, I'm going to go to my Excel spreadsheet, and from Excel, I'm going to, highlight what it is that I want to import. You can see that these don't have to be left or right justified. They're, kind of all over the place. I just had them keyed into this Excel. Item number is A column, B column, and there doesn't have to be any size either. It doesn't matter on the size. B is the quantity. I'm going to copy or right click and copy, and then I'm going to come over to that box that's popped up, and I can just left click and paste, and it's going to insert the information that was on my Excel spreadsheet directly into this pop-up box. So you can do, I think it's 20. I didn't physically count them, but I think it's 20 lines at a time. You can copy and paste in. Then when you're going to save this, so F10 to save it, tab then through the OQE lines to confirm everything that you've pulled in. So that it justifies or it reviews the item numbers, and it reviews the item numbers, and it also confirms that everything's okay if there's any um, uh, customer item numbers that need to be pulled in, or if there's any pricing discrepancy, or if anything is not available. As you tab through the lines, they'll populate as you go. So that is the slash paste. You can use that in both OQE for your quotes to your sales orders, and then also in QMPOM for your purchase orders. This next area is the IQS, or the master inquiry that we have in Tribute. I often refer to it as the brain. This IQS area is direct access to 26 different inquiry programs that we have without the use of acronyms. So a lot of times the users that come to TribNet are the ones who are active in Tribute. So this is a key area for you to take back to, the users that maybe don't use all of the programs and aren't familiar with all of the inquiries within Tribute. So it is a way of getting that access to those additional kind of acronyms and not having to know, hey, I'd like to look at receivables, but I'm not in the receivables department. How do I get there? So IQS is one place where it's all just wrapped into one. Within the master inquiry, you've got, this selection area. You can enter any known information into any of those inquiry fields. So again, it's perfect for sales reps. It's perfect for order entry clerks, new users, veteran users. Anybody can access this and utilize it. You're accessing inquiries, so you aren't drilling down into anything that's too you're not drilling down and doing maintenance from these areas. You can't hurt anything, drilling down into these inquiry areas. So in this case, you're going to select the inquiry category that you want to search. And I'm looking at this one. So I'm looking at the customer number, BB001. And from here, I can drill down into any of the 7 categories that are listed there at the bottom of the screen. From there, let's say I wanted to go into the customer and the AR area. If I drill down, I put in my customer number, I'm going to drill down into that. Then each category has its own subcategory. So I selected customer and AR, and from there it pulled up not 14, but 11 different subcategories. And then the example from this is, I don't know what CMQ is to get into the customer master inquiry, but I can click customer master. I can click customer alternate. I can click AR open without knowing that it's ROQ or CAQ or CMQ. So I'm going to be able to drill down into these areas. This is then, I selected to look at open AR, and it's taken me down into the ROQ area. I can see the accounts receivable for this customer. All selections, if I select on one of these indexes, if I select it, it will go back with me when I tab back out of this program. So if I select one of these invoices now and then go back to IQS, it's pulling back the information that it found. The categories and subcategories, this is just a listing or a cheat sheet for you to be able to tell what exactly, what areas you can drill down into, what categories and subcategories you can get into, the customer and AR, a listing of all the inquiries that you can access from there, order information by customer, quote information by customer, invoice information, your customer part number cross-reference, all of that's there without knowing any of those acronyms. You've got a sales order area, so you can see orders by customer, invoice total. These are the titles that you'll see when you drill down into these subcategories. You also have quote information, and just a reminder, the maintenance is not done in these, so you can poke around and become familiar with the programs without hurting anything. Additional categories and subcategories for inventory, inventory master, the detail, Cardex is the movement of your inventory, order by item, quote by item, invoice by item. Those could benefit other people in other areas of the business that aren't naturally going into those lookups by being able to go into IQS and drill down into some of these things. product code information, branch inventory information. You've got vendor and AP, you've got purchase order, you've got invoice inquiries. With each drill down again, Access pulls the information back to IQS for additional drill down. So if I grabbed a purchase order in one of these screens and I took it back, then I could get into the line and an item number and then go look at the POs for that item number, because it's just going to bring that right back to me into this screen. And you can see here now I've got an item number, I've got a product code listed, I've got an invoice that I brought back. If I get drilled down into too much information and I don't want all of that information to pull back, I can clear out the inquiry fields and start a new search. And I can also, right now I'm drilled down into the inventory inquiries. So if I needed to, I could also click back to main, and that would take me out of the subcategories and back into the main category if I then wanted to drill down into more of this customer's invoice or more of this customer's AR information. When I go back to main, I'll get out of the inventory inquiry and I can access the rest of the inquiry main categories. Okay, just a couple other things that we have for this session. The RP searches. So RP report generators are custom reports. So it's key for you as the user to kind of understand that RP reports, there's some standard ones that Tribute does have out of the gate that you would have on your system. But most, all of our customers, and we've been working with you for 20 plus years, 30, 40 years. So the report generator reports that are out there, anytime you have asked Tribute to create a report, or anytime we know an instance that you needed something from us and we had something we could provide from one of these custom reports, that's the dump of where all of these reports go. So everybody's RP area, all of our customers, they're completely different. They're unique to you. Some of the report titles are the same. Some of them we've sent to multiple customers because they are pretty standard reports. But as a company, if you go into the RP area and you look at your OL2 directory, you'll get this listing of the custom reports that are currently on your system. You can view them from here. A recommendation that I would give all of you is to, if you haven't already, start a database of the custom reports that you have, an internal database, and some kind of like a description of what the report is, because we also find in support, with transition of users and maybe not doing the same function as you used to do, a lot of times we'll build a report and several months later, maybe years later, the same company will come back to us and ask for the same type report without the understanding that they already have it. So keeping that internal database of what these reports are listed as, that's going to be beneficial for you, and it will also be helpful for us if you know that a report is close to what you want and you just need it to be tweaked, and you can contact us and say, hey, I need the $AR.TRN TRAN to be to access this product, this profit center, or I need to add this bank code to that. That type of thing makes it easier on us. Now, what I'd like to kind of provide for you here is I can see just by looking at the titles what some of these reports might be. AR total, probably an accounts receivable total kind of listing. Oh, we've got something for bins, bin.imp. Maybe I'm importing bins. BLT.SLB might be belt slabs, credit card expiration, CC.exp. So some of it's easy to understand, and some of it can be difficult. So we've got a city report. What does that mean? What city? Probably customer cities. There are then again, like I said, everyone's unique. And sometimes we even take one report and tweak it a little bit and change the title NVM, that's vendor, so I can see that one in the middle. SLS might mean sales, so vendor sales. I've got an open SO, open sales orders. So again, you're kind of guessing if you haven't or you don't have a database. But once, as you're utilizing the reports that are in there, keeping that database, even if it's just the title and kind of a description, and then whether or not it needs to be run from the main menu or if you have to go into File.js, that'll be helpful for you as a company and all of your users having access to that database and information. Once as you're looking in RP and you're kind of generally looking at some of this, like my report, this AP list sounded like something that I might want, or I'd like to know a little bit more about what this report does. Again, the specs, if you know how to write reports, it might be a little easier for you to understand what the specs mean. But if you, from RP, use the process of D to display, you can pull up the report and look at, for the title line mainly, is going to give you a lot more information, or the most information that you'll find. I found the title, and this says that it's a listing of vendor addresses and their AP balance. That might be exactly what I'm looking for. It might even be having someone go through and just pull title and, the file name, so that you can keep, again, that database of your unique reports. I can also kind of look for that print area. In this case, it says print vendor name, vendor address, line 1, address line 2, vendor city, vendor state, vendor zip, and then vendor AP balance. So again, the reports can be run from the main menu or from File.js, and you can review them and confirm the details. And then once confirmed, add it to that internal database and keep record of it for you in the future and your coworkers as well. Okay, my last hot tip for this class is the blue question mark. That option in any program throughout Tribute, if you see the blue question mark and you haven't clicked it before, click it. This is an OQE, so OQE has a whole lot of additional options, but it's that blue question mark that for each program, you're going to get into the unique and specific options that each of those programs allows you. So, hey, you can take a bill of material and make it into, take a list of items and make it into a bill of material. Oh, you can change the estimated ship dates. You can recalc a new cost. You can view all lines, or you can view required dates, or you can insert lines. So without having clicked the blue question mark, you might not know that all of these options are available in whatever program. Again, each program has its own set of unique options, help options that you have. So click away on that blue question mark. Never going to hurt anything, and always giving you some additional options. If you don't like clicking things, you can also click the blue question mark and hover over any of the buttons to get their shortcut keys as well. Okay, so for TribNet 2025, the attendees, you guys did a great job sending in things that you wanted to chat about, things that you wanted me to train. I just wanted to note, because probably some of the things that you did send in, they were not in this training, and that's because that Tribute best practices, that we're going to talk about lessons learned and things that'll be like a round table. For the things that we hit on in that session are the barcoding with Tribute. We've got tariff hurdles and some options. We've got tracking promise dates. We've got spool view guidelines, some procurement for future required dates. We've got auto credit card relationships and practices, tariff surcharge huddle. We also, hurdles, and then favorite program shortcuts and reports. So again, that's more of a discussion that session we'll have that, and the tariff surcharges, that is, there were some questions about the current Tribute options, and there's a whole class on that. So that was a submitted topic, and I didn't touch it on it here because there's a whole tariff surcharge class. And also another thing that was submitted was the ACH setup and some processing details for that. And that's going to be in the accounting tips and tricks session. So for any of you that are just virtual, the Tribute best practices, since that's a roundtable, that's only for our in-person users. But the tariff and surcharge and the accounting tips and tricks, those are both available on the videos online in Eventify as well. And so I like to thank you again for all of your submissions, for the details that you wanted to talk about in this session. Also wanted to let you know that the PowerPoint slides are available in Eventify, so that can be helpful with you. I did throw also a PDF for when the in-person, you'll have the session topics there will be printed for you. But again, the PowerPoint slides are helpful for you to be able to download and kind of pull some of the details or some of the screenshots and things as well. So thank you guys again for your attention. Thank you for attending TribNet this year. It's we love our customers. So again, we're just happy you're here and that you're able to take these sessions with us. You guys have a great day. Thank you.